And this is why people vote for Trump. They say in politics, liberals are the gas pedal and conservatives are the brakes. And I'm generally with the gas pedal, but not if we're driving off a cliff. On the trans issue, America is no ands, ifs, or buts about it, absolutely alone in the world now, an outlier country. Last month, England's National Health Service announced that there's not enough evidence to support the safety or clinical effectiveness of puberty blockers for third graders.
For years, the woke left have portrayed Canada as their glittering snow globe of perfection, a polite, maple-flavored role model for America. But not everyone's buying that sugary illusion, least of all Bill Maher. In a fiery episode of Real Time, he didn't just challenge the myth, he burned it down like a stack of overcooked pancakes. Buckle up, because this roast was served extra crispy.
Canada was where every woke white college kid wearing pajama pants outdoors who'd had it up to here with America's racist patriarchy dreamt of living someday. There's only one problem with thinking everything's better in Canada. It's not. Not anymore, anyway. Last year, Canada added 1.3 million people, which is a lot in 1 year, the equivalent of the U.S. adding 11 million migrants in 1 year. And now they're experiencing a housing crisis even worse than ours. And we're sleeping in tents.
Maher dives straight into the woke left's maple-flavored fantasy and shatters it like a snow globe in a blender. First on his list is Canada's housing crisis, born from feel-good immigration policies the American left idolizes. The truth? Canada faces a 3.5 million home shortfall by 2030, with over 1 in 5 citizens spending more than 30% of their income just to keep a roof overhead. Yet the woke crowd still hails it as paradise. Maher doesn't just laugh at the illusion, he burns it down.
The median price of a home here is $346,000. In Canada, converted to US dollars, it's $487,000. If Barbie moved to Winnipeg, she wouldn't be able to afford her dream house, and Ken would be working at Tim Hortons.
Housing in Canada isn't just pricey, it's punishing. The average home runs around $500,000 to $540,000, while in Vancouver or Toronto, prices soar past $1 million. In the U.S., it's closer to $350,000 to $400,000. That Canadian dream suddenly feels like an economic ice bath. The woke left loves praising Canada's model, but if America copied it, we wouldn't get affordable living, just a nation priced out of its own driveways.
And because of mortgage debt, Canada has the highest debt to GDP ratio of any G7 nation. I don't know what that means, but it sounds bad. So does their vaunted healthcare system, which ranks dead last among high-income countries in access to primary healthcare and ability to see a doctor in a day or two. And it's not for lack of spending. Of the 30 countries with universal coverage, Canada spends over 13% of its economy on it, which is a lot of money for free health care.
Canada's cracks are showing faster than a frozen lake in spring, and the liberal fan club's utopia narrative is melting with it. The problems up north are far bigger than the maple-scented myth ever admitted. And here's the kicker. Bill Maher isn't some MAGA firebrand waving a conservative flag. He's a lifelong liberal, once celebrated by the left as their sharp-tongued mascot. That's what makes his takedown sting. It's not coming from the other side, but from within. If Maher's the one calling foul on Canada, the fantasy isn't just cracked, it's shattered. But he's not ranting for sport. With his trademark smirk, he's holding up a mirror to America and saying, "You want to copy this? Really?" Because if Canada's the model, expect sky-high housing, broken promises, and a front-row seat to regret. And the best part? Maher's only just getting started.
Look, I'm not saying Canada still isn't a great country. It is, but those aren't paradise numbers. If Canada was an apartment, the lead feature might be America adjacent. And if America was a rental car, Canada would be America or similar. And again, honestly, Canada, I'm not saying any of this because I enjoy it. I don't because I've always enjoyed you. But I need to cite you as a cautionary tale to help my country. And the moral of that tale is, yes, you can move too far left. And when you do, you wind up pushing the people in the middle to the right.
Is Bill Maher confessing to joining the right? Not exactly. It's what happens when you wander too far into leftist land. Eventually, you hit the edge and remember gravity still works. When the left drifts so far off track that even lifelong liberals start choking on the groupthink, the pendulum doesn't swing back. It snaps. Not every disillusioned liberal turns conservative. Some just wake up wondering, when did everyone around me lose their minds? Joe Rogan and Elon Musk are prime examples. Once hailed as progressive icons, now branded right-wing, for daring to question the script. Maher's no different. He hasn't changed. The shoreline did. The left sprinted so far off the cliff that anyone standing still now looks like a Reagan speechwriter.
At its worst, Canada is what American voters think happens when there's no one putting a check on extreme wokeness. Like the saga of Canadian shop teacher Kayla Lemieux, whose pronouns are she, her, and those. Kayla is now back to being a guy named Kerry, but 2 years ago when they showed up to teach children, the progressive high school they taught at said that they, the school, not the person. Really, you couldn't have found another word. We were using that one. Anyway, okay. They were committed to a safe environment for gender expression. Safe for who? What about the children?
This is what happens when everyone gets to rewrite reality, and the rest of us are forced to play along. Pure chaos, gender edition. Students can't even tell what planet their teacher's on. One day he shows up in a dress demanding applause. The next he's back to normal like nothing happened. That's not education. It's performance art gone off the rails. When identity turns into a revolving door, clarity leaves the building. What's left isn't progress. It's just a costume change pretending to be enlightenment.
That's when things change, but what people say about them doesn't. Yes, for decades, places like Vancouver and Amsterdam and Stockholm seemed idyllic because everything was free and all the energy we needed was produced by riding a bike to your job at the windmill. Canada was where all the treasured goals of liberalism worked perfectly. It was like NPR come to life. But with poutine.
Let's be clear. This circus of extreme wokeness isn't playing out in some faraway lab. It's happening right next door, in the land of maple leaves and mild manners. Canada, the country America's liberals idolize as a progressive paradise, is the model they can't stop romanticizing. But peel off that maple syrup glaze, and the reality isn't so sweet. Sky-high housing crushing families, identity politics running wild, classrooms turning into reality shows, and policies that feel like failed social experiments. Still, the American left gazes north like lovesick fans, convinced Canada's living the dream. It'd be funny if it weren't so tragic, because if this is utopia, it's built on debt, dysfunction, and delusion. Maher's message cuts through the sugar. Before copying Canada's playbook, maybe read the fine print. Spoiler, it's not the fantasy brochure they think it is.
They say in politics, liberals are the gas pedal and conservatives are the brakes. And I'm generally with the gas pedal, but not if we're driving off a cliff. On the trans issue, America is no ands, ifs, or buts about it, absolutely alone in the world now, an outlier country. Last month, England's National Health Service announced that there's not enough evidence to support the safety or clinical effectiveness of puberty blockers for third graders, and that they were going to stop fumbling around with children's privates, because that's Prince Andrew's job.
Maher's right. Trump didn't appear out of nowhere. He won because millions of Americans, including centrists and fed-up liberals, got tired of the left's non-stop woke theatrics. The DNC had turned into a circus, identity politics as the main act, cancel culture as the sideshow, and virtue signaling as the snack bar. People stopped buying tickets. Even moderates and young voters started walking out. When freedom of thought got replaced with ideological obedience, the movement lost its spark. The left didn't just lose the White House. They practically handed it to Trump with a note that said, "Our bad."
So too with all the other good place countries, in direct opposition to America's choice to affirm children's wishes on switching gender, no matter the age or psychiatric history. The far left, which always like to use, well, Europe does it. Yeah, no, that doesn't work on this one anymore.
Here's the irony the woke brigade won't admit. The same countries they praise as models of progress have already hit the brakes on their gender agenda. Sweden, Finland, and the UK, once hailed as the holy trinity of progressive virtue, have rolled back or restricted medical transitioning for minors, citing something shocking: evidence. Some now ban it entirely until adulthood, realizing that irreversible procedures shouldn't be part of teenage experimentation. These governments did the unthinkable. They looked at the data and chose to protect kids over pleasing activists. Meanwhile, America's woke elite keep claiming to follow the science, even as the rest of the developed world quietly steps away from that parade.
Or on immigration. Sweden opened its borders to over 1.5 million immigrants since 2010, and now 20% of its citizens are foreign-born, and its education system is tanking, and it has Europe's highest rate of gangland killings. And one result is that the far-right parties...
True enough, throwing borders wide open isn't compassion. It's chaos with a press release, and America's living the fallout. Fentanyl use has exploded, tearing apart communities and families. This isn't about inconvenience. It's lives lost and neighborhoods hollowed out. The left calls it kindness. But what kind of compassion leaves kids overdosing and parents burying their children? Maher's warning is clear. If America can't secure its borders, it can't protect its people. From housing meltdowns to gender confusion and drug devastation, the utopian mirage collapses on contact with reality. What America needs isn't Canada's blueprint. It's leadership, sanity, and a grip on the real world.